Hey guys, Big Ed here. This is kind of a different video. This is, I think I'm going to call this Edward Explains because I kind of just want to sit down and talk to you about a topic I find interesting and a topic that's particularly relevant to my life. And if you read the title, today is about, should you study psychology? The answer is kinda. The answer is, I think it depends. So I got some Bone Lab footage for you guys here. So just sit back, enjoy, and listen to me ramble for a couple minutes. So for reference, I go to the third highest ranked psychology school in the land down under, if you can't tell by my accent. And that's not to say that I know more than you, but it's just to say that, I've been going there for a year too. So I think I have a little bit of a gauge about how, a psychology degree looks within the university / college space. So I think if it's not your major, then it's good. Because there's two answers to this question. Is if it's your major, or is it just a side subject you do while you're studying to be like a fucking English teacher or an engineer. But I think if it's not your major, then absolutely do a psychology course. It'd only be about 2,000 Australian, but I think you would get a lot out of it. Because it's not your primary focus, but it is a widely applicable subject. If you know a little bit of knowledge in psychology goes a long way. But if it's your focal point, if it is your major in your degree like it is for me, then the conversation switches a little bit. I see a lot of shit online about psychology degrees, both from people who have actually done it and people who haven't fucking done it, who are just, fucking taking the piss. But it's hard, and I don't think enough people talk about how hard it actually is. I think, because when you imagine psychology, you imagine like, I want to be a clinical psychologist. But I'll explain how it works in Australia. I don't know, I'll throw up some screenshots later about how the Americans do it, because I'm not 100% sure what it's like in America. But I'll talk about Australia. So to be a registered clinical psychologist that helps people, you have to do 3 years undergraduate degree, get into honours, which unfortunately only about, I think maybe 15 to 30% of people get into. And then after you do your honours degree, you have to do a master's degree, which is its own fucking year or two odyssey. And then only then can you start training to become a registered psychologist. It's fucking hard. So I think if you're looking at psychology and you're thinking like, oh yeah, it might be alright, well, kind of like fucking I am, I'll be honest. If you're looking at it like, oh yeah, it might be alright, don't do it. Alright? Unless, and this is kind of a life thing in general, unless you're really passionate about it, unless you wake up every day and you want to be a psychologist, I would not recommend doing psychology as a major. And that's not to say you have to be a clinical psychologist. I've talked to many of professors, tutors, and they're really interested, and believe it or not, some of them are actually pretty fucking interesting people. They have interesting experiences and they have a wealth of knowledge about the subject. So if you want to work in the field for your life, then absolutely do it. But if you're kind of humming and ahhing about it, and if you don't know what humming and ahhing means, I have to fucking throw up a Urban Dictionary, then don't do it. But I'll explain how it works really quickly, at least from the undergraduate perspective. So like I said, I've been doing it for about a year. So how it worked for me is that we had 2 semesters. So each semester, it's kind of like an introductory thing. So it was kind of a bit of everything. So you had 2 weeks on like cognitive psychology, 2 weeks on learning. We had 2 weeks on forensic psychology, which was really interesting because I was actually watching fucking Dexter at the time. So you do social and basically a wide range of shit. Now in your second and third year, you can kind of start to specialize, if you're more interested in how learning works or how cognition works or how personality works, then you can kind of specialize into that. But that's pretty much the gist of it. So if that sounds pretty good to you, maybe look into it. But it's hard. I think, and that's the crux of what I want to get across is that it's difficult. And I'm not saying that as a deterrent, but it's like anything in life, if you're not ready to put in the effort, then why do it? And I think, and this is fucking boiling down life to a fucking bite-sized bit, but I think it is hard for a young person like you or me, that to find what you want to put that effort into. Because, we all fucking have our ventures, we all try different shit, and that's good. And like I said, if you're doing something you're passionate about in uni, like if you're starting to be a teacher because you love teaching, I would recommend doing a bit of psychology, because I think it is a helpful subject. But like anything in life, if you're not passionate about it, then it shows. I'm questioning myself every day. Am I passionate about this thing? Sometimes that answer is yes, sometimes that answer is no. Sometimes I wake up and I'm like, fuck yeah, can't wait to learn a bit of psychology. Other times I'm like, holy fuck, what am I doing with my life? But that's like anything in life. Some days you question yourself, and some days you're pretty sure of yourself. But overall, I think if you want psychology to be your life, absolutely do it. But if you're kind of on the fence, kind of like, it sounds interesting, looks interesting, I'm not 100% sure, then maybe give it some more thought. But yeah, I just wanted to talk. That's about it. See ya.